Hey guys, I wanted to make just a second video for today, just random, talking about my top 5 favorite supports to play with and why I like them so much, and my 2 least favorite supports to play with and why I don't like them so much. So, you guys know that Twitch is my favorite champion to play, and any support in the right hands can be really good with pretty much any AD carry, though some do have better synergy with different AD carries than others. For example, Blitzcrank and Callista. Blitzcrank hooks someone and then Callista ults during the hook animation, while the hook is pulling somebody, and now they get dragged all the way back to Callista. But Twitch is the kind of AD carry. Twitch is more of an on-hit style of AD carry. He can synergize well with anybody who can buff his on-hit stuff, but I like a number of different champions. So my top 5 favorite supports to play with. I'm just going to warn you guys right now, 4 of my top 5 are tanks, and that's just personal preference. I prefer playing with a tank support over playing with a mage or healer type support. You know, I'd take an Alistar over a Zyra, for example. So, speaking of Alistar, he is my 5th favorite. Alistar is a tank, has strong engage with his WQ combo or Flash QW combo, and his ultimate damage reduction is a great way to turret dive people. He has a little bit of sustain on his E, even if it's not that much. It can still help you come out on top even after a bad trade where your opponent is forced to blow their health potions, and you can maybe conserve yours or maybe just let the Alistar heal you back up. It is a fairly weak heal, but it's still relevant. Another thing is he has insane synergy with Callista. That Flash QW combo where he flashes in on the enemy, knocks them up, and then pushes them back towards your team. That's something that is really, really powerful engage in a team fight, or really, really powerful engage in a fight in lane, and it pretty much always guarantees that he's going to get flash for flash or flash for a kill. With a Callista, he can do that every, I don't know, I think Callista's ultimate is on a 90-second cooldown, rather than every 5 minutes. With longer range and the knockup built in, he doesn't have to Q them away and can save the Q for peeling. Afterwards. Number 4 is going to be Nautilus. Nautilus is just tons of CC. He's a wall of fat that your opponents can't walk through because he's just going to snare them, knock them up, hook them, slow them, and just endlessly powerhouse them with CC and keep them in the ground forever. He also just got buffed, which the buffs make him, or at least I feel like make him, a monster in team fights. I haven't seen him very much since the buffs. For anyone who doesn't know, the buffs are everyone that the ultimate hits on the way to the target. After the knockup gets stunned for another 1.5, or 2 seconds at ranks 1, 2, and 3. That just feels really powerful, maybe a bit too powerful. Number 3 is Nami. Nami is the only mage support or more sustain, the only non-tank on this list, because she's the only one that I'll particularly love playing with even over some of the tanks I've already mentioned. A good Nami can land bubbles consistently and that ultimate is really powerful. She can literally, she can save the lane with her CC and heals. That's something that's really rare for a mage support to have, is both crowd control and heals and decent poke damage. She's kind of like the jack of all trades of mage supports, and that's why I enjoy playing her. She's not particularly tanky, but in every other aspect of a support, she is extremely well-rounded. She's got heals, she's got crowd control, and she's got poke. Not to mention her, what is it, her W, her E, that little thing, that ability that gives the target ally the 3 little bubbles swirling around them that buff their next 3 auto attacks to deal bonus on hit damage and slow the target. Not to mention that triggers her passive, giving me a speed boost if she uses it on me, which makes it very good for kiting. And like, I would even say that I would take Nami over my top 2 if they have an abundance of juggernauts, an abundance of people that I need to be able to kite. Meanwhile, people playing her poorly isn't too much of a detriment. I have still gotten fed and carried with a Nami who was intentionally feeding. And why was because even though she was intentionally feeding, she would still occasionally throw out poke with ebb and flow, and throw out heals on me with ebb and flow, even if she missed literally every bubble, and she would still use the wave. Not to mention that Nami players are generally... Okay, so one of my least favorites that I'll talk about later is also a bit more of a jack-of-all-trades style of mage support, but she is one of my least favorite supports to play with, for one, because people playing her don't seem to be very good at the game, and at support in general, and at her specifically. So, number 2 is Braum. He's my favorite champion to play. Well, not my favorite champion, but my favorite support champion to play. He's got tons of CC, tons of ways to protect me, tons of peel, tons of defense, and still good on offense. His WE combo can save me from so many sticky situations. And one of my personal favorite lane tricks to do is when I'm playing Twitch, I stealth with my Q, walk up to them, and then Braum uses stand behind me and unbreakable, puts down a Q and a Q and an auto attack to give them 2 stacks of their passive really quickly, and then I pop out of stealth and finish the passive off, and then by the time the stun wears off, they're usually at 6 stacks of my passive and dead. And dead the instant I press E. And then number 1, pretty much everybody should expect this. He's the most well-rounded support in the game, I think, and that would be Thresh. He is an aggressive support that has damage, crowd control, a way to engage in and of himself without me doing it first. Looking at you, Braum. And more than just crowd control to protect me. The only thing that so Thresh has damage, which Braum doesn't particularly have a lot of, and Thresh has a way to engage himself in the fight without me going in there to first, which Braum certainly does not have. If he can stun somebody and drag them close to me, and then I can just unload on them, that's probably a kill, especially if they don't have flash and are fairly immobile. And then, my least favorite supports to play with. Most other supports that I haven't covered are fairly close to my top 5 favorites, and all the top 5 favorites are fairly close to each other in why I like them and in how much I like them. But these two outliers I absolutely hate playing with, and I would normally, like, in ranked, if I see one of these guys, I should probably start dodging those games, because I just hate playing with these supports so much. And it's nothing against the supports themselves. They have among the most powerful kits in the game for a support. It's the players playing them. I don't dodge just to see if they'll prove themselves to me and prove me wrong about them being bad, but usually they don't, and usually they are just bad. And those two champions would be Janna and Blitzcrank. So, why do I hate Janna and Blitzcrank so much? Janna is generally far too passive of a champion. Well, the players are generally far too passive. They stand behind me, which doesn't create lane pressure, and they do pretty much nothing to help the lane other than throw down Eye of the Storm on me. Meanwhile, the enemies are free to just free farm all they want because I can't get too close, because I cannot trust Janna to help me out, and Janna is standing behind me rather than in front of me, which her standing in front of me would relieve lane pressure from me and apply lane pressure to the opponents. She could, at any time, Zephyr Howling Gale them, and then just lay into them and kill them. Throw down an Eye of the Storm on me so that I get the bonus AD. I'm actually on the website right now looking at her abilities. The shield is 80, 120, 160, 200, 240, plus 70% AP, and it grants 10, 17.5, 25, 32.5, 40, plus 10% AP AD until it breaks. That's for up to 5 seconds. She's also the only champion in the game who can shield turrets. So, she can really be a powerful support in the right hands just off of Eye of the Storm, Zephyr, and Howling Gale. Add into that Monsoon, one of probably the most powerful disengage tool in the game, and the best way to reset any fight in the game, and you've got a very powerful support. But most people playing her just stand way too far back. Like if I'm here in the lane, it's flipping it, okay. If I'm here in the lane, and the minions are over there, she is here. Like, behind me and way too far away from the enemies to be able to poke them or apply pressure, and way too far away from me to be able to help me in the event that the enemies decide to engage. She just stands way too far away. and does nothing to help the lane. And then you guys saw in one of my videos earlier where I played with a Janna support, she was doing exactly that, standing back way too far away. And then in team fights you also probably saw that she used her ultimate for exactly 1 tick of the healing, and then immediately cancelled it. She literally just used it for the pushback, and most of the time there weren't even enemies in range for her to push back. I know that Janna can do a lot more than just that, and I know that she can be a very powerful champion in the right hands. So, take my extreme dislike of her with a grain of salt. Same thing for Blitzcrank. I do dislike these champions, but in the right hands they are very good. But that being said, you need to be in the right hands, and a bad Janna or a bad Blitzcrank can literally lose the game on their own, because the AD carry falls behind because he cannot farm, or he dies, and meanwhile the enemy AD carry gets pushed so far ahead that there's really just nothing that we can do, nothing that I can do to come back, and if the other lanes lose, then it's pretty much game right there. Blitzcrank is the polar opposite side of the coin, though. Too often Blitzcrank players either don't use the hook at all, miss every hook, and or go extremely ham, even after missing the hook, to get a kill, and end up dying and or baiting me into my own death. Now, there are times when I'm glad to have a Blitzcrank. Sometimes Blitzcranks get perfect grabs and pull enemies right to me, and I can just feel free to lay into them and kill them. I love getting that one Blitzcrank that seems to land every single hook, and every time he throws out a Q, either forces the enemy flash or nets us a kill. I love getting Blitzcranks that do that. But 9 times out of 10, the Blitzcrank that does that is on the enemy team rather than on mine. And if it's a Blitzcrank on my team, then he's going to throw the hook, miss it, W up to the enemy, knock them up, and then die. Another case of a bad Blitzcrank is when he pulls the enemy tank or pulls the enemy assassin right to me, and then they survive the initial burst and kill me. Now, I do enjoy playing. Now, though, I do enjoy playing with those 2 champions. I'm saying this a lot because I don't want you guys to get, oh, never play these champions with me. No. If you're good with them, play them, because they can be probably the 2 strongest supports in the game. For Blitzcrank can be the strongest support in the game for getting a lead, and then for abusing that lead, creating picks in the early and mid and the entire game, and just getting tons of kills for everybody, while a good Janna can zone the enemies off. She can flash ult as kind of like an insect type thing, where she pulls the enemy bot laners into me, and then I'm free to just lay into them and kill them, and I've got a giant heal from her coming in, so they really cannot damage her, and then I get a giant shield afterwards that buffs my AD, which makes me deal more damage. Obviously, there's a ton that a good Janna and a good Blitzcrank can do, and I don't own either of those champions, but just from seeing good Jannas and good Blitzcranks play and watching stuff and like knowing their kits well, I know what a good Janna and a good Blitzcrank can do. Most Jannas and most Blitzcranks I see are awful. So, if you're good with them, play them. If not, please stay away from those two champions. Play somebody that doesn't just want to sit back and get carried or run in and commit suicide over and over and over again. Please. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you guys got something out of this, just a little rant type thing towards the end. I am a bit sorry about that. Like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!